Welcome back to Good Morning Idaho. Time for our visiting vet, Dr. K. And it's been a few weeks since you've been here, Dr. K, but we're glad that you woke up early with us once again. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And we're talking, as Thanksgiving approaches, of course, very appropriate time to talk about some of the things that we've talked about in the past, because holiday time, we're looking forward to the good food, the feast and everything. The pets might be too, but I think that's where you got to keep an eye on them, because Thanksgiving and the holidays kind of pose some dangers for them if you're not careful, right?
Yes, they are, especially dogs, because, of course, their nose is one of the big sense organs.
Yeah.
So when you're cooking, guess what they're thinking?
They're thinking, oh yeah, dinner
Yes,
time for me too.
And they don't have a lot to think about, so they're only thinking about one thing, it's getting that food. But generally speaking, if you can just give them the regular food, that's the biggest thing. And so when you're cooking and everything, make sure you're thinking, because it's really easy to leave some sort of pie, the turkey, anything on that counter, and you leave for a second, and especially if you have like a lab, they will jump up there and you'll be in trouble with the turkey.
And I have to say, and my wife might be a little embarrassed, I was over at her family's house for Christmas a couple years ago, and dining room table, my mother-in-law had left a pumpkin pie up there. We look back after just 5 minutes, and their little morky, there's a nose print right there in the pumpkin pie, and so should have covered it up, you know?
Right. And it causes more than just an upset stomach. Sometimes it can excite their pancreas, and they can get what they call pancreatitis, which is really an infection inside the abdominal cavity, and it can be really even life-threatening. So it's important that you keep your food out of the way, and when you get done with the garbage, put it in the garbage can and make sure that the dogs can't get into it.
So put it behind something, put the lid on there, whatever you can do. Now let's talk about a little bit about bones. I mean, that's one of the things, I'm sure dogs love them. You see it in the movies all the time. Can you give your dog turkey bones when you're done?
I wouldn't give a dog any turkey bones because they splinter.
Okay.
And then if they're big dogs, sometimes they'll be able to get them through, but they can get really sick, and as it goes through it, that they have those sharp points will kind of cut the intestines and make them get a bad stomach ache.
So it's not just eating the meat, they'll actually try to eat the bone itself.
Oh, they'll eat the whole thing.
Okay.
It's long gone.
So sometimes you forget about that because you hear about dogs and bones, but not always a good idea. And also you were talking a little bit about, before we came to this segment, a little bit about guests when they come over to your house. Anything to keep in mind for that?
I think it's best just to keep the dogs out of the road, because the guests are there, and sometimes, every dog, sometimes they'll find somebody they don't like, they might get bitten, or you know how guests are, they'll sit there and the dog will be looking up like that, and you know what's going to happen? Boom, they're going to feed him something, and so you might not, but sometimes their guests will add to your problem.
And just one last thing, we're running out of time, but just some of the foods that dogs should not have on Thanksgiving. Chocolate, we've talked about that before. You mentioned a couple others as well.
Xylitol in that gum's not good. Sage's not good. Onions aren't good. There's not a lot of things. Anything.
And bread dough too, right?
Bread dough, because it rises, and that's happened before.
Okay.
I know not that many people actually make their own stuff, but if you do, I've had dogs and those. Once you hit that stomach, it grows like that, and
they're going to get sick.
They're going to get really sick.
So make sure you keep those foods especially away from your pet.